Welcome back, WNST, Dallas and Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are keeping calm, we're staying local, and we're always Baltimore Positive. Don Moeller joining us now, former Baltimore County Executive, for a Baltimore Positive update as we have no more WNST sports. We have what is going on with the pandemic in the community. Don, on all things education, I always defer to you as my ninth grade high school guidance counselor in 1982, but we have put together a full force of education this week from Dr. Sonia Santelises in Baltimore City, the CEO, as well as your daughter, Jennifer Lynch, over at Hillcrest Elementary, where she's a principal. There's a lot going on here, but this guy sits up at Greenwood where you used to do. We had him out a few weeks ago for an incredible conversation out at State Fair, and you can find those episodes up at Baltimore Positive. But Don, I know a lot has changed since the last time we got together with Dr. Darryl Williams, correct?
My goodness, we had Dr. Williams in on February the 20th. Again, for folks who are listening, that was episodes 146, 147, 148. Really great sit-down with Dr. Williams, doing a terrific job out there in Baltimore County. And Dr. Williams, welcome back to Baltimore Positive.
Thank you. Good to be back. Unfortunately, we're not able to see each other. But I hope you and the family are doing well. We're doing well on this end.
You as well. You know, we were chatting with your comrade in arms, Dr. Santelises, and I asked her, I said, when she was working on that doctorate in school, exactly which class was it that covered educating children during a pandemic? And I'll ask you the same thing. When you were getting that PhD down there in College Park, which class was it that dealt with educating children during the middle of a pandemic?
Unfortunately, there was no such class. This is on-the-job training right about now. But the beauty about it, as you just said, we have our colleagues. We talk regularly. We talk to our state superintendent at least 3 times a week. I talk to my cabinet on a daily basis, trying to figure all this out and make best decisions for our students and staff.
I guess in the initial going here, this happens, and it was not too long after we spent some time together. First things first, as a superintendent, give me the crisis management 101. What were the first 2-3 things that were on the list of, oh, wow, we're going to close schools? What are the first things you need to do countywide?
Well, first thing, we always talk about our students and staff. So in closing, we had to think about those opportunities that students may not have. They depend on us for a variety of reasons. We wanted to make sure they got home safely. And then for our staff, how would we continue to communicate with them, give them updates, help them in the decision-making process. And then we were thinking about, so what does this mean for our school year? And, you know, those questions, that last question, we don't have all the details yet. As I would say constantly to folks, I said, this is not just a snow day. This is a pandemic that we're experiencing, health-related. So therefore, we just can't assume we can open up after several days closed. So it's a little bit bigger, and we have to work with our health department. I tell you, great partners in Baltimore County, our county exec, Johnny Ocheski Jr., our health director, Dr. Branch, just great people to collaborate with.
Doc, what has been, and one of the things we're trying to share with our listeners, because we really think there have been just remarkable examples of leadership. And near the top of that list, along with the county executives and the mayors and the governors, the top of that list really are school superintendents. And Nestor often refers to it may be the toughest job in government. When you woke up, this pandemic hit, what was the toughest thing to get your hands around and make sure you were doing first? I'm sure you had this mental list and you said, uh-oh, we're in uncharted waters. I've got to do A, B, C, and D. What was A?
Well, I think the toughest, Don, was just understanding what this pandemic was. That was the question, you know, how was it coming about and the who? And at one point we thought it was a particular age group. Then it changed And so it was really not, it was the unknown. Every day, just learning more about it. That's why I said Dr. Branch has been very instrumental in working with us for us to understand what does this mean, and then what will it mean when we close? How would we continue to provide some learning for our students, provide resources for our students? There were a lot of the logistics that started to pop up when we first closed, but to be honest, I was really thinking about like the well-being of everyone, and especially now with this stay-at-home executive order, we have to be concerned about our staff and our students. And fortunately, at least in my neighborhood and others, people are taking it seriously and not going out unless they have to.
Well, Doc, I imagine one of the first things that popped up, and we've talked with others about this, both in the private sector, government, and now in the school system. I just think people, it's interesting. You don't know it until you see it. And I think folks were shocked that it really fell to the school system to suddenly figure out how to serve meals to a large percentage of your 100,000 plus student body. And Baltimore County Public Schools stepped up and really became the food provider for families, correct?
Yeah, the first week, I think we served or gave out close to 50,000 meals. Now, at first, we were just doing lunch, and then we started to do 3 meals. And so, the best thing about this is a team effort. This is when you pull your people together and you're on the phone, you're in a room, and we had several of these conversations to figure it out. And I had Food and Nutrition Services, Miss Karen. She is incredible. She worked with her resources. We worked with our school principals, and we figured it out. And I would say each day we may have tweaked some of our processes along the way. We opened up more sites because we were hearing from our board members saying, I hear that there's this area that needs support. I said, fine, let us work on it. That's that problem solving that you do on the moment. And it really takes, it's a cliche, but it does take a village because we may not know all that's happening. And so therefore we have to collaborate. So it really was a team effort to problem solve.
Dr. Williams, so the first thing we've heard, on the television when you're watching the news is, all right, your kids are home, you're going to have to school them, and, here are some tips for parents who have jobs and are grieving the loss of a job or other children. It's just very, very complicated, and I know you know this, but the technology piece of this is so different from the most challenged parts of the community in Baltimore County for children who barely have a home to go home to, let alone whether it's running water or electricity or heat, but certainly the capacity and the device to be able to get the work necessary in order to make sure that the education doesn't stop.
Yeah, that has been a challenge. We have been fortunate over the years to have invested in technology, but the past few years we did not have the one-on-one device for some of our younger kids. So we had to come up with Plan B. And no one would have thought we would be in this situation. And so, what I ask is that folks be flexible, be patient. And, it is putting a lot of pressure on our parents. Because, we have staff members who got to take care of their own children or maybe take care of an older relative or loved one. And so we just can't quickly just turn the switch on, and now we're in remote learning. It's going to take, we got to know who has access, who doesn't, how do we give them access, how we give them access to materials. And to be frank, I'm already thinking ahead, like what summer might look like, what the start of the school year might look like. I'm not saying everyone has to go to summer school, so I don't want anybody to put that out there. But I'm just simply saying, you've got to constantly think about the what ifs and think about a week from now, a month from now. We don't know what the end of the year may bring. So You got to be ahead of the curve as much as possible. This is really teaching us how to be creative thinkers and how to constantly be flexible and nimble enough to change when things don't go the way we had planned. So I'm constantly thinking, and so that's what good people you have around you who are always pushing the envelope, always thinking about the what if, always thinking about those barriers or challenges that may get in one's way. So again, it's a team effort, but yeah, we're somewhat fortunate that we have many devices out there, but some of our students don't have access to them. Some of our students don't have access to Wi-Fi. We're trying to do packets. We're trying to think of all kinds of things to keep our kids engaged. And then our parents, I always say, parents are the first teachers. And so, I have a senior in high school. I have to still try to coach through this situation, and I got to be a parent as well. And I think it takes its toll on all of us when you're trying to work and then be a parent. But again, that's why I say I just need folks to be flexible and patient. We will all get through this.
Dr. Williams, and again, we're with Dr. Darryl Williams, Superintendent, Baltimore County Public Schools. Like so many in these difficult times, leading an organization and really leading what people care about probably more than anything else. It's the education of our children. Dr. Williams, one of the things that we've heard from folks, we've heard from teachers, we've heard from principals, we've heard from other leaders of school systems, is that out of difficult times, sometimes something good grows out of that. And perhaps that one of the things that's growing out of this is, again, a renewed focus on the importance of reading in the home. I know when you were with us in February, you really did talk about the importance of mom, dad, grandmom, granddad, whoever is in the home with the child, really taking on some responsibility and saying, look, the most important thing you can do is to have your child read, to read with your child. Make reading be part of every day. Are you seeing that renewed emphasis and one of the messages growing out of this?
Oh, absolutely. I think our parents are absolutely looking at creative ways of keeping kids engaged, reading. I tell you, just what the math that you can do around the house when you're cooking, that the application of math, just keeping your mind active, board games, things on TV that you can watch. So, yeah, it is going back to where I think we all kind of grew up around the same time.
Hey, be careful now. One of us was one of the other's teacher here. Come on.
I never like to point out, Doc, that I'm the elder statesman. I tell him I'll accept elder.
Well, except when Venetoulis is on. Maybe every once in a while, Mikulski, somebody's older than Don. But, Doc, I would tell you this. I mean, I grew up in the early 70s, and if this had happened when I was in the 3rd or 4th grade, I guess, Electric Company was there for me, or Sesame Street. Now with Khan Academies and all of these. I mean, my son's 35 and's watching TED Talks all night long, and I think I remember telling you that my son wasn't the greatest student as a child, but has been a student of the world. Boy, there's so many ways to be educated, but we just assume everybody has YouTube, right? Or that everybody has access to that, or everybody has parents that speak English that can lead them in that direction, correct?
Correct. But, I will say this. When we were announcing that we were about to close, our media specialists opened up those libraries, and to see, I don't have the count in front of me, I want to say maybe over 50,000 books were checked out. And it was just for the 2 weeks. So clearly folks were thinking, our students and our teachers were helping our students to say, you got to grab some books, take some books with you, because regardless, it's always fascinating when I see students reading, because I'm a little old school. I have the technology, but it's nothing like holding a book and reading and marking it up, if you can mark it up, all that. And so that's what I kind of grew up on, and I'm sure you did too. Now
I'm old enough for that, okay?
A lot of the students nowadays, it's fast. They can pull up stuff on the computer. They can do things quicker than some of their parents, and I recognize that. So this is really helping us to look at other ways of teaching and learning. But the most important part, this is all about health. And that was the major concern. We all said everybody needs to take care of themselves. If they're not feeling well, stay home, continue to wash your hands, do those things just to keep you safe. And so, things have changed since we all were in school. Think kids can easily grasp information from a computer, a laptop, a Chromebook, whatever the case may be. But nowadays, I think this is helping a lot of us slow down. I was reading something somewhere where it says now families can enjoy each other. They don't have anywhere to go. So now they can actually sit around and talk and have dinner and have good conversation.
And I don't even need to battle the Dewey Decimal System to check out a book anymore, right? It's true.
You are aging yourself.
The old card, the card catalog.
Hey, let me tell you this. This is the first time in my life, Dr. Williams, and I tip my cap to you, that somebody thinks Moeller and I are the same age, because you know what it tells me? I'm finally a grown-up. That's what it tells me.
Hey, Doc, I want to pick up on that piece that you just mentioned, because it appears to be a recurring theme, and I'm inspired by it. And the theme is this. Your buddy, Dr. Santelises, referenced it. One of your principals referenced it when she was on with us. And it's that issue that they get a sense, which is what you just said, that families really are reconnecting in a special and meaningful way. Are you hearing that from your principals and from your teachers?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Again, you have nowhere to go unless you are an essential employee. And I am married to one of those who has to go out every day. And when she comes home, working in the hospital, we have those conversations, but now it's a family conversation. First, we want to check to make sure she's doing well. Then secondly, how was the day? It's forcing all of us, in a good sense, to kind of slow down and take care of each other and get re-engaged and spending more time, quality time. And so, that's, I'm very optimistic. So I see that is a positive with this horrific situation that we are experiencing, but it is causing families, I think, to come together and spend more time together.
Well, with that happening, there are some questions out there, and would appreciate, and I realize you may not have all of these answers, because I think Nestor used the example earlier. We're sort of learning to, would you say, Nestor, we're learning to fly the plane as we build it. It's land the plane while we're flying it. And one of the things that I do see, and I'm trying to follow on social media what moms and dads are saying, they have questions about grades for the fourth quarter. And this, you mentioned that you have a senior. Probably matters more for high school juniors and seniors who are thinking of their GPAs and their college admissions and their advanced placement. What are your thoughts? Where do you see the Baltimore County Public Schools and systems around the state, where do you see them going with grades for the fourth quarter? Is your inkling that it will be a pass-fail, or it'll be something different than that?
I think, Don, we have to look at a pass-fail situation. Colleges are doing that. We all have to look at this. And you know what came to mind when I was sharing the same response to a staff member? It reminded me when I was a high school principal and I received students from Louisiana based on Katrina, where they had absolutely nothing, no records, just, to be honest, what they had on their backs and maybe some bags, and we made the best out of that. And it's not to that degree where there's nothing in terms of records and all, but it did cause us to pause a little bit, that we've been down this road before, and so we will support whatever we need to do. Again, we don't want our students to be harmed as much as possible. We're going to try to give our students options because the universities are doing the same thing. So I just think there's comfort that we all are on the same page with this. And if we have to justify why there's a passing grade versus any other grade, then we'll do that. This is not business as usual. So, I think we can support our students because again, the colleges have to deal with it. College Board, AP, IB, all of them will have to understand this year is really an anomaly. So we have to approach it differently, and we'll be able to support our students.
How concerned are you, Dr. Williams? One of the things that it seems to me has been brought forward is this whole issue of equity and the digital divide again. That it seems to me that it's front and center, that everything, once again, is not equal. You mentioned not everybody speaks English. Not everybody has Internet access. Not everybody has a mom and dad in the home who's comfortable filling in these educational gaps. How worried are you about the equity issue? And then how do you see school systems trying to respond to that when students return, whether that be in May or whether that be in August?
So I am concerned about that. And I referenced it a little bit, like what can we do differently once we return back into our school building? And then how do we set up ourselves so we can lessen these inequities that exist? A lot of that, I believe it starts with knowing our students and relationships and building those relationships with families and making sure families have access. I am concerned because you all know we had to make some decisions within a day. And so it just concerns me that, wow, I wish we were better prepared. And I wish we really knew what our students need when they leave us and go home and what our parents may need for us to do differently. I just feel, as a new superintendent, I haven't fully grasped that yet. But, I'm really concerned that this may be slowing down some of that momentum that students had in school. It's different going to school every day. This can never replace going to school, the interactions of a school building and the culture, those activities that happen in a school building or on the courts or in the fields. So I am concerned. And again, that's why I'm constantly thinking about down the road. What can we start thinking about and preparing for once we can get out of this and return back to somewhat of a normal schedule?
Dr. Darryl Williams, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Nestor. Go ahead.
Is our guest here. He is Superintendent of Baltimore County Public Schools. And, Doc, one thing that I have some Purell here, and I've told this story the last couple of weeks. My wife and I had this battle 6 years ago. She's had leukemia twice, and we had no knowledge of masks or Purell or bacteria or viruses other than, hey, shaking your hands and I get a little too close to you, I might get the flu, right? And we lived 40-some-odd years of our lives that way. And 6 years ago, I had a mask on every day. It became very clear to me, as the doctors made it clear to me, that the chances of her dying were made best by me bringing a virus into the hospital and giving it to her as a caregiver. So it was up to me to keep her alive. And so I learned Purell. I learned elbow bumping, which I probably did with you 2 months ago before there was a virus, because I am a little weirded out about the handshake thing and whatnot. Then I think about like the Ravens facility, going in there where they have a game on a weekend. And about 5-10 years ago, Purell started showing up at all the front doors because they didn't want Joe Flacco or Ray Lewis getting sick or anyone getting sick. That was going to give it to everyone. That contagious is a real thing. I don't know what was at the front of Delaney High School or Colgate Elementary School 6 months ago, 6 years ago, 20 years ago. I've only been in my new high school, Dundalk High School, the best high school in your county, I might add. I've only been there once, and I keep my Hall of Fame crap here for fun, but I don't remember whether there was Purell on the way in or out. I'm getting the vibe that when all of this is over with and we open anything up, one of the main things is going to be turning every school into the front door of what I lived through at Hopkins, which is if you want to walk in the door, you're going to put Purell on your hands because that's the way we live here. And I would think every school, every workplace, every place is going to find a new level of what Purell means and what a mask means.
So I agree with you, because if you recall, when we were in school, you can just walk in, sign in, and go to a classroom. Now you have to check in at the main office, show ID, be scanned. So it's the days and times that we live in. You know, we are learning that we have to be a little bit more cautious. And you know, that week before we closed, we were even helping our kids to understand how and when to wash hands. You know, wash hands before you eat, wash hands after you eat your lunch.
And making sure you have soap for 2,000 children in a school as well, right?
Absolutely. Soap and paper towels. So I just think, to your point, this is just causing us to think differently and how we can protect ourselves. And to your point, you'll probably will see more hand sanitizers as soon as you walk in. I went to the doctor way before, I guess, the middle of March. As soon as I walked into the doctor's office, what was greeting me was a desk and hand sanitizer. So I think it's just causing us to, all of us, to think differently and act responsibly. And so I can see this happening as we open up schools. We will have more and more of hand sanitizers or reminder kids to wash their hands. If they're sick, stay home. All of those helpful reminders that we got from our health department.
You know, it's interesting, Dr. Williams and Nestor, when you talk like that, it sort of reminds me, and Nestor, you've been on this kick, and I think you're right, but I equate it to what national security looked like in the United States pre-9/11 and post-9/11. There was clearly a pre-9/11 world and a post-9/11 world. I think in terms of health and safety, there will clearly be a pre-COVID-19 world and a post-COVID-19 world, and it will indeed, in fact, affect us all. Dr. Williams, before, and I know you're busy, you've been very gracious, before we let you get out of here, this is an opportunity. One of the things we've learned, interestingly enough, just in the 2 or 3 weeks that we've been doing these remote Baltimore Positives, is that we have more listeners, more people are tuning in to the podcast and to WNST.net than ever before, because they have a thirst for information. They want to be connected to what's happening. So with that in mind, I would ask you, can you sort of present an overview to the parents of students in Baltimore County Public Schools as to what instruction is beginning to look like and will look like until this pandemic is over? And maybe break it down sort of by elementary, middle, and high. So what can they expect from the school system in terms of instruction for the next few weeks and beyond?
Well, I think let me just start there about this is not going to be the traditional ways of teaching and learning, and it's really a continuity of learning that we are emphasizing. So, in essence, there's going to be at least once a week lessons will be online or access or packets. There'll be opportunities for students to learn a new concept in several of their classes. We're looking at, of course, the core. We're looking at the English language arts, the math. We're also going to rotate in science, social studies. This is for grades 3 to 5. Of course, secondary in terms of grades 6 to 12. At least 2 new lessons per course will be shared at the beginning of the week. Students will have opportunities to practice and self-pace throughout the week. They'll have opportunities to submit work and get feedback if it's digital work. If it's not, we're going to have our students to have a portfolio, a collection of their work, We're still trying to work out the logistics around teachers giving feedback and how often that will be. So folks have to understand, in my message just yesterday, I had to be clear that this is a different way of learning than most parents have experienced, and we had to train our administrators this week, and they're working with their staff to get ready for Monday, April 6th. So it is a modified version of online learning for those who've had online courses or maybe gotten a degree online. There's a lot of self-paced. There's a lot of checking in, self-discipline, but also we do have and we will have opportunities to share packets with kids who may not have access to a laptop or Wi-Fi. And so it is not going to be the same of having 4 classes a day and activities and all those exciting things that can happen in the school. So we are doing a modified online with some printed materials, but it's going to be different. And I think each week there should be an opportunity for students to engage in content each week, for staff to try to give feedback or to model a lesson. But we're hoping that we can continue the learning throughout these next 4 weeks. And we still don't know what may happen at the end of April. So we all are working closely to try to make the best of the circumstances. And again, as I shared earlier, I collaborate with my colleagues just to see what's happening next door at Harford County, Baltimore City, Howard, Montgomery County. We all just collaborate and see what each other is doing and trying to replicate some of these best practices.
Now, did I see, Dr. Williams, that in Baltimore County, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I saw somewhere on the website that you are actually going to mail some instructional materials directly to certain students' homes. Is that part of the varied approach that you're talking about?
So that's one of our approaches that we're looking at, the print material to get out to our families. So we're looking at multiple ways. We sent out a survey to our families about what they may need, what they had access to. We're working with our principals to help us with that information. So I think every week we're going to be problem solving to try to figure out how do we get materials and resources to our families during these next 4 weeks. But yes, that's why we're having kind of like these lesson or two a week, so kids can have time to digest the work. Because here's the other thing we just can't take for granted. Our students may be taking care of younger siblings. Our families and our parents may not be at work. And so there may be some things that folks have to do around the house, too. Again, it just cannot look like a traditional school day or feel like a traditional school day. So that's why we're calling it a continuity of learning, and we're trying to put these provisions in place so students will get some concepts, some content, and teachers will have some access to our kids. But again, this is a struggle for such a large district as Baltimore County. Again, we're fortunate that most of our secondary schools students have a laptop or will have a laptop. We got to work through some of our younger students and making sure they get materials.
Well, I'm sure this last question, one of the last questions here, is one that's near and dear to your heart as well. You mentioned that you have a senior. Folks who listen to the show know that I have a granddaughter who is a senior at Catonsville High School. Obviously, your senior, my senior, their proms are affected, their award ceremonies are affected, their graduations. At what point in time, you all have been so busy with feeding children and trying to come up with instruction, at what point in time, Dr. Williams, do you think you'll take a look at what graduation might look like and whether it can continue in its present form or whether you might have to do something different?
So every week We're going to make some decisions around prom. We got to make some decisions around fifth grade promotion, eighth grade promotion, as well as graduation. Our graduations begin as early as the end of May. And so, to be honest, I've been waiting. I'm going to wait as long as possible. But unfortunately, where we were having our most, if not all, of our graduations were at these universities, and they're closed. So right now, we're going to be talking to our high school principals to see what they think may be a good alternative. But the way things are happening right about now, I'm not sure if we can have a traditional graduation ceremony for our students. It's
sometimes
like
best plans just can't be executed, right? I mean,
got to make memories the best way you can. I'm supposed to be in Europe right now at a wedding, right? So
right.
Things happen, right?
It's life is truly uncharted at this point in time. Well, but before we let Dr. Williams go, I'm so impressed with these conversations. Nestor and I have we tip our hat to all of you that are out there. We tip our hat to our sponsors who make these conversations possible. I mean, again, State Fair Restaurant, these small businessmen and women throughout the state, throughout the county, who are really struggling. So go to State Fair, call them. They got breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They'll bring it right to your curbside. They'll deliver it. You can get food from State Fair.
I'm going to tell you, the chicken and waffles is going to taste better in a pandemic than it did
there
before.
There you go, the chicken and waffles, which Nestor loves. You saw him chow down on the chicken and waffles. Our good friends at Fadley's, Lexington Market is shut down, but jump on the Fadley's website, order their crab cakes, order their crab soup. I ordered a bunch today. It'll be here tomorrow or the next day. So support our friends at Fadley's. Jeff Moeller and Gary Realty, they're continuing to work. They're doing virtual home tours. They're doing listings. They're settling. Our good buddy David Thurston at Crown Title has thrown in some picnic tables out in his parking lot so settlements can continue. Our buddies at Center Maryland giving all the news every morning. So it's our sponsors that make these conversations possible. But Dr. Williams, truly, on behalf of all of us in the region, as we said to Dr. Santalisa, you are the generals in this fight. Thank you for your leadership. It's truly been remarkable.
Well, I thank you all for all you do for our communities and being the voice of our communities, and it's a pleasure to spend this time with both of you.
Doc, I'll tell you the same thing Dr. Santalisa said. Her words were urgent empathy for the students and for the teachers and for the parents and for everybody to get involved here and make sure our children are learning. I know you're there overseeing about 70,000 students in Baltimore County.
No. Now that's Baltimore City. Tell them the number.
What's
Doc.
your number?
115,000.
You know what? No. I'm reading from the website, so we're going to have to update BCPS.
No, you're reading Baltimore City's website. Boy, come on now.
No, hold on. Did I get the numbers wrong? Hold on here. It said approximately 67,000, 40 middle school. Hold on. Maybe I'm at the wrong place. It was your job before. That's what I'm. You're only coming up with a 1-year anniversary. You've had a heck of a first year, man.
115,000 students, 174 centers. How many employees, Doc?
Close to 20,000 employees.
There you go.
Well, I'm going to need to update that then, because on the website I'm reading it wrong. I'm reading your old job description, not your new one.
There you go.
So that's my old job.
So we're talking about a general of logistics. 115,000 students, 174 schools and centers, 20,000 employees. Dr. Darryl Williams getting it done on all of our behalf in the Baltimore County Public.
By the way, Don Moeller sounds like a former Baltimore County executive, doesn't he, Superintendent?
He sure does.
See, and you thought we were the same age. He can still correct me with the best of them. There's no doubt about it. Dr. Darryl Williams, our guest, Superintendent of Baltimore County Public Schools and former Baltimore County Executive Don Moeller. Make sure you're checking out all of our Baltimore Positive work. We're talking to so many interesting people. Next week, we're going to the Arts, the Aquarium, the Science Center, the Walters, the BMA, the Zoo. We'll be talking to everyone there. And, of course, Don and I are going to get together once a week to try to make sense of all of this. We are WNST.net. We are keeping calm. We're staying local. With over 120,000 students in Baltimore County and 70,000 in the city, keeping you up on education. We are Baltimore Positive at WNST.net.